Halloween Horror Movie Night listeners, as we have been doing for, I want to say 4 years now, we
Sounds
are
right.
once again doing a draft on Halloween night. So, as always, I need to give a quick shout out to the podcast All Fantasy Everything, which is where I got the idea for this draft thing, and I never want to be accused of stealing it from them. Anyway, so we are joined by two podcasters I befriended at Creature Feature Weekend, and they are JB and Jordan of the Camp Nightmare podcast. Hey, guys!
Howdy.
Hey, man. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Of course. So, this year, our draft topic is going to be needle drops from horror films. So you might be wondering, what's a needle drop? Well, a needle drop, by definition, is any time that a song pops up in a movie. It could be, a big old montage scene, or it could just be subtly in the background, but it's something that sticks out in your memory bank. We made the rules of no musical scores for this. We also made two rules that I think will make this extra cutthroat. Once someone picks a song, no one can pick any covers of that song, which will really narrow down things as well. And once someone picks a song from a movie, that movie is off the table. The other sequels, if it has sequels, are still on the table, but that film is gone. So Jordan and JB, I want you two to real quick do a game of rock, paper, scissors to determine who picks the order of the draft.
Okay, well, I think we're going to go with prison rules for this, which is traditionally best out of three.
This is where I stab you when I lose. Right?
Yeah, I was about to say,
Right,
what exactly are prison rules? Are they like kindergarten rules? Because
you could see clearly that between the two of us, Jordan is the biggest dick on the yard. Literally. So as an incoming inmate, prison rules mean that I need to stab him before the game starts.
yes.
Which is pretty much what we do every time he comes over to podcast.
Yeah.
So here we go.
That's how
2
we
out of
open every
3.
episode.
2 out of 3, and on 1, 2, 3, go,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're not savages here.
Yeah, come on,
We're adults.
we're philosophers. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's me.
Oh, my God.
Okay, JB's got one.
Oh, that's me.
All
All
right.
right, JB got
That's
2
a
out
solid
of
2 out of 3.
Luck of the Irish.
Well, I mean,
All right, so-
we're going to consider the second one, which was scissor for the listeners, to be a mulligan that didn't exist. So you're 2-0. There was not even a question on who would win that. But then Matt, so that means that JB goes first out of the two of them. But then,
No.
are we giving?
Scott,
are we gentlemen?
you're not paying attention to what I'm saying. JB's going to determine the entire order of
Oh,
everyone.
yeah.
My God.
So the
So
other thing that I need JB to determine before he chooses this, I'm putting this power in your hands. Do we want to do just like a round robin draft, or do we want to do the serpentine draft where, like, if you pick first in the first round, you pick last in the second round, but first again in the third round?
Oh, that's fine. I'm real stoned, and that's
That sounds
far too
advanced.
complicated.
Yeah. If it's a consolation,
we're
I'm
gonna
not
go round
stoned,
robin,
and
yes.
that's-
That sounds-
round robin is way.
I don't know if you've listened to our show, but we smoke a lot of weed.
That other thing sounds way above my pay grade.
All
I
right,
can't
then
handle
round
that.
robin it is. Jabe, you pick the order.
All right, I'm going to go. It looks like my right from where you're sitting, but it's actually my left. So it's going to go me, Jordan, and then remind me of your name, man. I
Scott,
feel so bad.
or Matt.
Scott, and then Matt.
Okay.
Does
that work?
I'm in
Matt.
last. All right. All right, JB, what is the first pick in the Needle Drops from Horror Movies draft?
Cry Little Sister by Gerard McMahon.
Nice choice.
From Lost Boys.
Good
Cry
one.
Little Sister.
Are we
That's
are we writing down these?
I'm writing them down. Don't
Okay,
worry.
thank you, Matt. Well, I don't want to sound like an idiot, so I'm actually going to do.
So
Like I said,
just
I'm coming,
the
I'm
sister-
coming out of the gate hard.
No, yeah, it's
What-
a good call.
I mean, that is one of the most appropriate first round picks I can
That
think
might
of.
be the best pick I have this whole game. So I just wanted to,
That's why you gotta start
use
off
that
strong. Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, because now Lost Boys is off the table, so let's take a couple seconds to reminisce on some of the other great needle drops in there, though, because you got the sexy sax with "I Still Believe" is in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People
Is
is
that-
I feel like
Strange.
that's the one I always remember. It's just the sax solo
that
that
Tim
never
Capello?
ends. Yeah.
Dude, so all right, Creature Feature, the first year we were there, Joe Bob Briggs was there too, and he was obsessed with Tim Capello. The guy played because
They
Tim
did the
Capello
Tim
was
Capello
there. He was
concert.
there and did
Yeah.
a concert where he played that
Tim
song.
Capello always
And
does a concert when he shows up.
Joe Bob was just like fangirling out over him. Like it was like watching one man Beatlemania.
Tim
It was-
Capello does the sax solo.
It was wild, and it is not the behavior you expect to see from Joe Bob Briggs.
Well, it was
Like,
great.
yeah,
you know,
he's like the
Tim
most
finishes the
jaded
sax
dude.
solo all sweaty. He's like, "What's that, everybody? You want to hear the same song again? Okay."
Well, so
Buckle up, kitten. This is the next 45 minutes.
I was also at that Creature Feature weekend, and the thing
Was
I
that-
remember
Was
is
that
that
2019?
yeah, that was 2019. I remember
I was there.
Tim never was wearing a shirt.
Nope,
There was
of course
not.
not.
No, I have a picture
is-
of him. He
that
was
is
wearing
in
a
his
purple tank
contract,
top.
man.
What are you talking about? He was wearing a purple
Dude,
tank top all day.
Bro, he loses $100 for every minute that he's wearing a shirt.
The skin to cloth ratio is
That
very
dude
crucial.
understands on an implicit level that he has one job, and that is to play the saxophone shirtless for the rest of his natural life.
No
so-
bussy would be unwet by the end of the show.
Exactly.
So Scott wasn't at this particular Monster Mania, but one of my fondest Monster Mania memories was that our boy Gerard, who now records under the name G. Tom Mack, was at a Monster Mania, and he put on a concert because he's been working on a Lost Boys musical. And if you can track down the Frog Brothers song that he did, it is a straight up sea shanty about the Frog Brothers.
Oh,
Amazing.
I am here for that.
Yeah. Sounds great.
If you don't go to that show and then immediately come home, I mean, if it ever actually surfaces, you know, you go to the Lost Boys show, and then you come home and if you don't put in Forgetting Sarah Marshall and think about what could have been with the Thirst for Love,
Yeah, the
puppet
Dracula. Yeah.
you're missing out.
I die.
All right, Jordan, how about your first pick in the very gloves on fight for best needle drops?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Pet Cemetery by the Ramones. I had a feeling someone else was going to be vibing that one. I had to get it out early.
Jordan, I'm trying to stack this deck in our favor.
And
Here, bud.
they did like a halfway decent cover of that for the remake of Pet Cemetery. I forget
Do
what
you know
the
who
band
did the
was
cover?
that did
Okay, well, I'm gonna look it up.
find out.
I want it to be someone terrible like Orgy.
No, it's like it's like a girl punk band. They sound sick. It's cool. Let me find out right now.
I was like,
my
my brain's like the Donnas. That's all I can think of.
Dude,
for girl
Starcrawler.
Starcrawler. I'm into that.
Never even heard of
Starcrawler
them.
does the cover, and it's pretty much exactly like the Ramones one, but like I got to go with the Ramones
Well,
one.
isn't that the trick to doing a good cover though? It has to either be exactly like the original or so different that it's unrecognizable as that song.
Absolutely.
Well, I would
Like,
argue
I
that the
usually
only
prefer
good
people doing
cover
their own thing.
is the latter. Because why are you even making a cover if it's going to sound just like the famous version? That's my take.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Well, and
unless
like-
you're a bar
alright.
cover band, then it is
Well,
your
and
job
look-
to make it sound exactly
Yes.
like the song.
But you're not recording those.
Well, look at Cry Little Sister as an example, man. Every time they make another shitty Lost Boys sequel, someone does a cover of Cry Little Sister, and it just keeps getting worse. Like the first one they did, I think it's The Thirst, Lost Boys The Thirst.
I don't even think I've seen
Marilyn
the sequels.
Manson covers it, and it's bad, but it's at least passable. And I don't know who does it the third time, but it is like a copy of a copy. Like it's real, obviously bootlegged.
All you guys are telling me right now is I need to do. So like you two don't know, but Matt knows that every once in a while I'll do music under one of my monikers called Haunted Woods, which is like spooky acoustic versions of stuff. And
I saw your CDs at the Creature Feature, and I was asking them about that.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So mostly when I release stuff, it's under Console Crash, which is like horror metal covers and Nintendo metal covers. But I'll do Haunted Woods for things like the only thing that I've really released and has gotten any traction is a cover of Rock Until You Drop from the Monster Squad, which by the way, I'm picking that right now for my first pick.
That was okay.
Son of a bitch! I knew I should have marked that higher.
That's a good pick. That's a solid
Well
pick.
played.
Thank you. I also watched it last night. So
I went
mind.
as the is it Mike from Monster Squad? Who's the main kid?
With the Stephen King rule
yeah,
shirt.
I went as that kid for Halloween last year.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's Andre Gower's
Sean.
character. Yeah,
I got tickets to actually see Monster Squad at a theater on Friday, so it's gonna be pretty fun.
that's so sick.
We're doing it's like before the movie we're all going to be extras in like an indie horror short or feature that's shooting around here with like Felissa Rose, of course, and some
Of
other
course.
people.
The of course is the most appropriate usage of of course I've ever heard.
Yeah.
As though Felissa Rose is industry standard. Like,
She's also shooting 3 other
like,
movies throughout the country that same day.
Rose, of course.
Yeah. She's actually a demon.
I was at Arby's eating a beef and cheddar with Felissa Rose, of course.
Obviously.
So what you're
and then
trying to say
they're
is
doing the
that-
movie after that.
Awesome. Cry Little Sister needs a mediocre cover by me, and
I agree.
Pet Sematary needs a mediocre cover by
I
me,
agree.
which is
Yeah.
actually half recorded already from 2 years ago, and I completely forgot that I was working on it until you guys reminded me. So,
Dude,
here we are.
see?
Dude,
That's
you
what we're
need to
here
round
for.
out. You need to finish out that trifecta with a really shitty cover of Bela Lugosi's "Dead."
Listen,
Yeah.
I've been on TikTok
Needs to
more
be
than
longer
enough
than the
lately. I don't have a year to record, but I've been on TikTok too much lately to have anything to
Fair.
do with Bela Lugosi's "Dead." It's everywhere this year.
Is it?
Is
Really?
it?
Yeah. Speaking
Huh.
It's that sound is like everywhere.
Tell me you don't have TikTok without telling me you don't have TikTok.
Okay,
But,
that's
but you
what the kids
also
are
just
into.
use the meme that they use in TikTok, so I think that you're a fucking liar.
You've
We'll never
confused
know.
everything. All right, so
We'll never
Scott,
know.
as you're building your list of songs that you should do acoustic covers of, let me add this one to the pile. And some might argue I'm picking the
gonna be
wrong
obscure,
song
isn't
from
it?
Scream, but I'm going with "Youth of America" by Birdbrain.
That is not the
Oh,
wrong.
yeah.
That is the only
Is
answer.
Is that your first pick?
That's my
Yeah, it's
first
his first
pick.
pick.
Birdbrain,
Okay.
"Youth of
Well
America."
done, sir.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I could see someone arguing with would be "Red Right Hand" being like the
Red
more
Right Hand
iconic
is-
Scream
Cave
song,
track.
but
Here's something
Yeah,
that
but
makes
you're eliminating so many movies with Red Right Hand.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing is that here's the question for our rules is if a song is taken out from one movie,
Mhm.
is it possible? I know that the movie it's from. So if Matt picked Red Right Hand from Scream, is it that we could find something else that Red Right Hand is in?
No,
and
that's why I put
pick
the
it
no
as like-
covers in there. That I no other version of the song can be picked once the
Okay.
song is picked.
Well, then how about this? It, like if you would have picked "Don't Fear the Reaper" by Gus,
Let's pause because that might be a future pick.
Or
but yes, the Gus version, the
Is it
acoustic
Gus or-
version
yeah,
by
it's
Gus
Gus,
is not in contention anymore because as much as I love "Don't Fear the Reaper" and forgiving to any bad cover, that is a pretty low ranking cover of "Don't Fear the Reaper."
that dude. I remember.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
No, everybody should know it. Anybody that defends that cover of "Don't Fear the Reaper" has never picked up a guitar and has never listened to the radio
True story.
because that guy definitely one-taked it, and I think that he practiced for about a half an hour. I've heard Matt, who is an absolutely horrendous banjo player. I love him to death. We're talking about Matt right here. Love him to death, but
There he
he should share his cover of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Dude, it's the best. It was the best thing that we could ever give our Patreon was me covering Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in one take.
Yeah, Matt
So the
was
single guitar
making us listen to or making us review episodes of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and he did quite possibly the most ear-piercing banjo Actually, I'm going to go
No,
out
it was
there.
my
I'm gonna-
electric. It was my electric. I plugged into the electric guitar
That makes it
and
worse,
ripped it
yeah.
out. But yeah, that
I'm
was
not sure whether that makes it better or worse.
that
It
was
makes
for,
it way
our,
worse.
our short-lived Patreon series, Mighty
Wow.
Morphin Power Rangers. But all right, JB, what is your second pick?
Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go
Dude, you
with.
had like 10 minutes to pick one.
I know, and I picked like 6, and now I'm trying to. I'm gonna go with
Now he's
Eve
on
of
the spot.
Destruction from Mick Garrett's TV adaptation of Stephen King's The Stand.
Damn,
Okay.
that is a deep cut.
There it is.
Also, great job picking a movie that no one else is going to have on their list because The Stand is unwatchable. Sorry, Mick Garris. I know that you listen to us.
Oh, that's so hurtful. But I mean,
Ow.
it's not unwatchable. Yeah, it's kind of.
Listen, I
not
shaved
that
for the
bad.
first time
Not that
in my
bad.
life.
Yeah.
I remember. It came
I'm
in
going to
at
shock you all.
3.
I haven't seen it.
You're not. That's not
I
shocking.
probably
That's
watched
fine.
it once when it was streaming on Netflix like a decade
Oh
ago.
no, I
and
watched it.
promptly
I watched
forgot
it air
about
live. I watched it air live on ABC.
Damn,
was-
and you're
when I
younger
was
than
in-
me for sure. So
No, I'm 40.
I'm 39, but okay.
Yeah, we're about the same age.
But watching that for the first time, I watched it on tape, and I think there was a 3-tape set, right? Wasn't it? I think it was 3 tapes.
It was, it was 2.
I took a break from watching it to shave my mustache for the first time ever. I think I was 12. There was nothing to shave. It was just something to do.
What an oddly specific memory, though.
Scott is the king of oddly specific memories. Yeah, welcome to our show. So a few quick fun facts about Barry Maguire. That Eve of Destruction song, great little acoustic protest song. Went on to star in a movie that we talked about on Horror Movie Night, Werewolves on Wheels, in which he plays a member of a biker gang.
He didn't go on to do that, buddy. Oh, I guess you're saying after he recorded Eve of Destruction, before,
not before
he was in
the stand.
Gotcha. Sorry. Chronology is not my strong suit.
And there's a good Dickies cover of that too, actually.
Good.
I mean, I like Dickies covers because they are very short and to the point. Jordan.
I mean,
all right. I'm going with Starless by King Crimson. It's in the opening credits of Mandy.
Well done.
Oh, okay. Also,
Wow.
thank you for taking another one off of the list that I had no interest in discussing on my list. So,
was Mandy or King Crimson?
Mandy. I'm definitely not putting an asterisk next to that saying Haunted Woods is going to record.
I don't know if there's any other songs in Mandy. It's all score after that, I think.
Yeah.
I would argue that any King Crimson song is
already basically a score.
I would argue they're less songs and more like short scores.
But Starless is actually a weird example of like a sort of verse chorus King Crimson song. It's actually like a really normal song.
All right. So I liken King Crimson to like Sigur Rós. Yeah. Right? Like, there's songs technically, but like, you could score a short film with one of them.
No, for sure. I feel like every time, probably since like 1998, do you think like Sigur Rós sits down in the studio and they're like, all right, this one's for Wes. And then they just like do some long ambient instrumental track and just hope that Wes Anderson picks it up for his next French film. Like,
you don't think that Wes Anderson doesn't have them on speed dial being like, I have a movie coming out in 2 weeks. Can you please score this?
Yeah, they're number 2 after Bill Murray at number 1. Like those are two speed dials.
Listen, Sigur Rós, I need a song that goes with a quirky kid in a trench coat and glasses that has some mommy issues. We're on it.
Yeah, here's the last 2 decades of our music. Pick another your pick.
They just need to have Jonesy in a room and just have him just ready to go. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually where they keep him.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, you ready for your
go home when you crank out
pick?
another hit, Jonesy.
Go. It doesn't even matter if it's a hit. You're not going home.
Exactly.
I am shocked that we are halfway through our second round and no one has even come close to this. But I mean, we are the Dream Warriors.
I mean, so that was in my list of things that I chose from for round 2, and I was like, you know what? I'm classier than that. I'm classier than this. Throw some real obvious poser fanboy trash at these guys.
So I'm gonna throw this out there, and Scott will know exactly what these are. I had 2 songs from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and Dream Warriors was not one of those 2.
Did you ever see the documentary? Did you ever see that really long documentary they made about Nightmare on Elm Street?
Again?
It was on Shudder.
I've watched 3/4 of it.
So when they interviewed Dawkins in that, and like Dawkins still can barely speak English, and like they don't really know what they're being interviewed about, and then someone says Dream Warriors, and the lead singer Dawkins like Dream Warrior.
Like half the band's never seen the
documentary
movie.
that just sings that line over and over again when asked questions, and it's fucking it's the best part of that doc.
It's basically like the part of Never Sleep Again that feels like Best in Show, you know? Like,
the guys from Dawkins are just so happy someone knows who they are.
Yeah.
Like, they literally, I imagine the director of that documentary finding them in line at like a Subway.
Like, of course they're going to be in the documentary. Have they seen the movie? No, but they're going to be in the documentary.
I was just here to look at Footlong, but I'd be in movie.
Dream Warrior, yes.
Dream Warrior.
So my one story that's not even my story, but it's my favorite Dawkins story that anyone's told me is the documentary that came out for Monster Squad, Wolfman's Got Nards, featuring this guy. So shameless plug.
Nice.
Almost featuring this guy too.
The director of that went to Philly to do the first couple interviews in that, and it was because there was a Philly convention and Chuck Russell was there, and they were going to do a double feature of Dream Warriors and The Blob. With the intermission was going to be an acoustic performance from Dokken, and he was like, "These were our first interviews." He's like, we show up and we're interviewing Chuck Russell and we're interviewing Heather Langenkamp in the venue, and I'm not feeling it. Like, I'm just like, I don't think we've got what this podcast is. And he goes, and I'm all upset, and I go out to this empty bar to get a quick drink before they open up the doors for this double feature. And all of a sudden, I hear an acoustic guitar start playing a very familiar theme, and I turn around, and Dawkins is sound checking Dream Warriors for an audience of one. And he's like, and I just got to stand by the bar and just watch an acoustic performance of Dream Warriors. And I felt like maybe this documentary will be okay. Like, everything's coming together for me.
See, that kind of feels like it would be a Freddy dream kill sequence, you know? You like fell asleep and there was an acoustic version of Doc and you're like, this can't be good.
Listen, I've had a lot of Freddy nightmares in my long life, and I have also been a musician for a long time and never successful. So basically, you've just mashed up both of my fears, Freddy and being a failure as a musician. So thank you.
It's weird because in my Freddy nightmare, it's not Dawkins, it's the Nelson twins.
Okay.
Like, oddly. Gunnar and Matt.
All right, so I'm going to dive into my second pick here. Scott mentioned it earlier. This is an insane cover to choose, but it's one of my favorite films of all time, so I'm going to stick to being on brand. I'm going with Don't Fear the Reaper, but specifically the cover by the Mutton Birds that is the closing credit song in the movie Frighteners.
Okay. Wow. I was so confused, and then it all made perfect sense.
It's almost a note for note cover of the normal, like, of the Blue Oyster Cult song until you get to the bridge. And I've
really
seen this song listed as being performed by Oingo Boingo because the bridge is so weird that it feels like it could only come from Oingo Boingo. And like Danny Elfman did the score of the rest of the movie. So I think people were just like, oh, this is like an Oingo Boingo cover. Because instead of a guitar solo, it just starts to feedback guitar, and then it's a solo between a theremin and a trumpet. And then goes back into the normal version of Don't Fear the Reaper.
It's the most Oingo Boingo thing I've ever heard. You know what would be hilarious is if somebody else picked another movie with Don't Fear the Reaper in it, and I already know another one. I'm not going to waste one of my precious picks on it, but at the end, we can, if no one else is that stupid to waste their pick on Don't Fear the Reaper again, we can absolutely discuss that.
And obviously,
I can think of one other movie off the top of my head that uses it a couple times.
Yeah, I can think of one film from 1978 that maybe has it on the radio.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Okay, so is that like the tell that we're not going to pick it again, or is that like the?
Yeah.
Well,
we could say
Don't
that.
Fear the Reaper's off the table now officially. So,
Oh,
and I don't
okay,
think
so
there's
the
any
song
other
is off the
songs.
table totally?
Yeah,
Okay.
song is completely
Okay.
off the table at that point. And
So
I don't
yeah,
think there's
Halloween
any other songs in
1978
Halloween.
also has it.
And even Frighteners. I think the only other song in Frighteners is a Sonic Youth cover of Superstar by the Carpenters shows up for like 10 seconds.
I'm really glad that you didn't pick that one.
Yeah, when Jeffrey Combs angrily turns on the radio, that song starts blasting in the car. But that's all I got to say. So it's going back to JB for his third pick here.
Okay. For pick number 3, I'm going to go with from Devil's Rejects, Freebird.
Okay.
Best
I feel
use
like
of
you're
that
just picking
song I
long
have-
songs.
Maybe. I mean, like what sport are these songs playing against each other? Is it longevity? Because I win.
That
Like
is
we
true.
are drafting these songs for some sort of team sport that I assumed
That the laws have yet
I
to be
assumed.
distinguished. I still don't know
I
what
don't really
game
know
we're playing.
what skills I'm looking for in these songs, and I assumed longevity was.
I asked before we started this what the stakes were, and they said just that they were extremely high, and that's all I know.
No, we were talking about you guys.
Okay. Well, now that makes sense.
Also true.
But we don't
truly,
look like sports players. So
no, you know what you guys look like?
Sportsmen?
You guys look like online sports players. You look like guys that play a lot of draft sports.
Well, we
Yeah,
are
we're
on like a
in
fantasy
we look
draft
like-
thing.
Like
we do
you look
like
like,
the-
dare I say it, Draft Kings?
we definitely look at the people that we get cast to be in a DraftKings ad before a YouTube video for sure.
Or if like there's some movie about two dudes that start out with draft football and then end up cheating Vegas somehow and getting chased by the mob. It's you guys.
Yes.
yeah, that
like,
movie
you
called
guys
Rounders,
are-
right?
Well, I'm
Yeah, but rounders, but like maybe more dad body.
I don't think that
I'm
you've
just
noticed.
maybe
glad
not
we're playing by
Norton.
these rules because I
I am not.
No dad
There it
body
is.
for me.
There it is.
All right, that's fair.
I am the body of a child. Child body. We got dad body and child body.
Okay.
So
I'm just glad we're playing by whatever rules these are because I don't understand how sports work,
I
let
don't-
alone
I
some
don't know
sort
that
of
there are
fantasy
rules, man.
version of these sports.
The fantasy version is we're actually having orcs, elves, and other fantastical creatures from D&D play the sports afterwards. So once you guys are totally ripped, we're gonna really put
Sick.
you to it and be like,
I am.
okay,
See, this is why
cool.
I say just let athletes
telling
take
me there's gonna
performance
be a-
enhancing drugs because
are you
they can become more like orcs and like savage beasts.
Are you telling me that there's gonna be a band made up of orcs and ents playing fucking "Cry Little Sister"? Because
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's just
That's what I
ends
heard.
because of you two.
that's what I heard, and you're contractually obligated to make that happen.
I
I
signed
want-
nothing.
So
It would
let's-
definitely be a Doom cover if it was being played by ants.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
while we're talking, since you picked Freebird, and I can't imagine another situation where Leonard Skinner comes up either.
There's another Leonard Skinner song at the beginning of Devil's Rejects that I was also gonna pick, just for the record. There's a lot of Leonard Skinner in horror. That's all I'm saying. More than you think.
But I mean, this is like one of those songs where I always kind of make fun of it for being as popular as it is because I'm like, it's
Oh,
not
for
even
sure.
the best Leonard Skinner song. Like, there's like a bunch of
For
better
sure.
songs that I could.
I mean,
Come on,
As a musician, though,
is there a best Leonard Skinner song?
there is, and it's called Tuesday's Gone because
Thank
every
you.
time,
Yes. I agree 100%
yeah,
on that
that
one.
is a legitimately good song.
See,
But
JB, this is what I don't get, dude.
Wait,
Because
isn't
like
that
we're
also in Devil's Rejects?
but we're both musicians. How can
maybe
you not
it's
hate
definitely in Happy
Freebird
Gilmore
fundamentally?
and Dazed and
Well,
Confused.
here's the thing: is that Freebird is not a bad song fundamentally.
I know it's not the song; it's the guy in the audience
And
who always yells
I do
Freebird
Yes,
kind of hate
exactly.
that, and
for
I
everybody.
do,
Yo,
and I do hate Freebird on some level.
because
However,
of that.
the use of Freebird
Oh.
in Devil's Rejects is maybe the best use of a song for a scene that I've ever seen.
I don't
really
disagree with that. We were talking at the convention. Literally, it was like the week after I had quit my job, and I was on a walk one morning, and I had just like a Spotify playlist on shuffle, and Freebird came on, and there was literally a point where I started to openly weep. Like I was
You're like, were you crying though? Because you're like, this is it. This is how I die in a hail of cop gunfire. This song
definitely
comes on.
There was a part of me where I'm like, this is about me right now. Like I'm breaking free. I'm a free bird now.
Yes.
Dude,
Yeah.
It's like when
Yes.
it's like the first time you listen to Landslide and the words start making sense.
Yeah.
And you're like,
It's
oh,
exactly what it was.
I am old.
And it was like one of those moments where you're also like, there will never be another time where this song hits me like this. Like, this is the exact moment where this song is going to mean something to me. And like
And
a
then-
week from now,
This is
it'll
it.
never mean this to me again.
And then there's
This
that
means
profound
something.
sense of gratefulness that no one's there to witness it.
Oh, yeah.
No one's there to witness you have that profound moment with Freebird.
For sure. But I'm a podcaster and unable
And then
to share that story to the
Same.
world after it happens.
Same.
So I got a question for you guys before we go any further about Leonard
Yeah.
Skinner, because you guys are, first of all, talking a lot of bullshit about the fact that, you know, Tuesday's Gone is the best Leonard Skinner song. It's not. You're missing the song that I actually I'm looking to see if it showed up
He says,
in
"Sweet
oh,
Melissa, this interview's over."
no,
It's on-
absolutely not. I think you guys are forgetting That Smell, which if
That
it's
Smell
not
is a good
actually,
song.
it's an
Terrible
amazing
name,
song.
but great
Terrible.
song.
Agreed.
Is it though? Is it a terrible name?
The
'Cause
smell
it's
of
pretty
death
good.
around you. I mean, it's actually a really good song lyrically, surprisingly for
Mhm.
Leonard Skinner.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: is if that my brain is mush. It's a sieve.
Okay.
But if it didn't
Okay.
show up in the score of a horror movie, I know for a fact in the core of my being that Stephen King put it in a little pretext or like prologue to one of his books or one of the
Yep.
chapters of his
Oh,
books.
sure.
It's
It
in-
definitely
It?
did.
It's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an it when it's the little prelude to one of the Richie scenes when he's in
Thank you.
LA.
Yeah.
Too much coke.
And
Dude,
the fact that
side
hasn't
note,
been needle
that's-
dropped is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And side note about 80s Stephen King, it's the best Stephen King, like because there's so
Stephen
many
Coke
references.
King?
Yeah, there's so many references to just unabashed coke use in 80s Stephen King, and it's
His mind is just exploding.
well,
That's great.
it's always imagine it like the stuff he wrote shortly before he directed Maximum Overdrive, just a haze of cocaine powder.
You know, I've been watching a lot of I went down the rabbit hole of watching Ozzy videos from the actual like Blizzard of Oz, Randy Rhoads era, and dude was just like drugs incarnate. And I feel like the fact that he lived through that and is still kicking today, and that Stephen King lived through all of his coke use, and is ostensibly living better than Ozzy
unlike
Osbourne.
Ozzy, Stephen King is still cogent.
Yeah, exactly what I'm saying.
Right,
and,
I believe Ozzy thinks he's making sense when he talks.
He's got a lot of
who's the guy from the Eagles, Joe Walsh?
Yeah.
When Joe Walsh from the Eagles sings, he sings completely like articulately, and you can understand it. And then he talks, and it's just he's like the American Ozzy.
You know who else does that? Tim Armstrong from Rancid. Dude is just.
Yeah, well, and Tim Armstrong, you're like, this is genuine, like this is malnutrition that's making him talk like he's not into drugs in any way. He just hasn't eaten in like 4 weeks.
Well, he did spend about a decade only drinking and not eating, so it's been a real slog for Tim Armstrong.
It's true.
All right, Jordan, do you have your pick number 3 locked and loaded?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Blondie's "Call Me." From Bride of Chucky.
Son of a bitch.
In the sequence when Tiffany turns into a doll, I believe, and she's putting on her goth fashion, and you need a fashion montage.
So I had a different Bride of Chucky song that I'm currently deleting from my list, but
there's a lot of good songs in that.
Yeah, best usage of Living Dead Girl is the opening sequence as Tiffany walks off with the bag, and all of a sudden you just hear that Living Dead Girl.
Totally.
Kiss, Call Me by Blondie. Scott has mentioned it many a times that he's covered that song not because of that, but because of Last American Virgin or
no. It was American Gigolo.
American Gigolo.
That was the original. It was originally written for American Gigolo, and then it just showed up in a bunch of movies because Blondie was like, "You want to use this? Give us $1," and they're like, it's got to go to some good. But yeah, guys, I had a death thrash band for a decade, and we did arguably what I think was our best work when I wrote the cover of "Call Me" for us. It trickled out of my PP real fast.
It's an interesting word usage. All
right, so call me.
But yeah, great song. I think Blondie, Blondie's underrated. Like they have 1,000,001 hits, but I feel like they get forgotten also for just how many good songs.
And also how awesome she was. Like,
and dude, that band was incredibly versatile.
And she's an actor. She's an actor. She shows up and it basically elevates everything in video.
Oh, dude, her role in what was that meth movie, Spun?
Yeah.
Her role was like the weird lesbian biker neighbor in Spun but she's all old and grizzled. It's just like, hell yeah, Debbie Harry.
That movie's
You
wild.
didn't age well, but you aged hard. She looks like the kind of lady that's going to stab you over a pack of Misty cigarettes.
Well, she's going to stab you over your bag of American Spirit Loose.
Exactly.
I say that as a person who doesn't even smoke cigarettes.
For the record, I do have a bag of loose leaf American Spirit tobacco in my bag. Just so we're being...
Is that the stakes?
Just everyone's on the same page.
Cards on the table. I am that guy.
All right, Scott, you got your third
Scott,
pick?
Here you go.
So now, here's a question, and I am embarrassed. I'm actually not embarrassed. I'm scared to ask the answer to this because I don't want this to end, but how many 5. Total are 5? I thought so. And then maybe if we are really hard up for some things that we really wanted to mention, we could do like an honorable mention in round 6. But here's the thing. I am having a really hard time paring down because there are 4 left for me that I think are crucial. And I don't know if any of them are going to show up. So I'm going to go with the one that I think rips the hardest. What'd you say?
I said it slaps.
Well, it does. It
That's what the kids are saying now. I watch your TikToks.
Rags, bangs, it hangs, it spanks, it all the things that the children like to say. But Trick or Treat by Fastway. Also the band that birthed Flogging Molly. So have you guys watched Trick or Treat 1988?
Yeah, I've seen the movie.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So the everything's all right. It's a trick or treat. Like it's just,
I have to listen. I don't remember the song. I have to look the song up again.
dude. That whole there's an entire record that Fastway did for Trick or Treat. And the biggest irony of it is that they had Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons in the movie, and they were like, "Here, Fastway," who I think that one of the guitar player from Fastway was the side project of the guitar player from Motorhead, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were like a super group.
There is a
extent.
Motorhead like connection there, but they wrote an entire record thinking that it was going to be their breakout because they had done a couple records beforehand and nothing came of it. You know, nobody really cared about Fastway, and then they were like, okay, there's this horror movie in 1988. We're gonna do the entire soundtrack, and I mean, arguably, their cult following is only based on the fact that they were in Trick or Treat, but still, nobody in polite culture knows who they were.
Yeah, they were. It was a combination of Motorhead and UFO.
That's right. Thank you.
And then the dude from Flogging Molly. But
Weird.
Yeah, that's it. So, and an equally, no one's going to grab this but me, but I got to follow my gut on this one.
Yeah.
And I love this song, and I've mentioned how much I love this song on many occasions. I'm Awake Now by the Goo Goo Dolls from Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare.
Nice choice.
Goo Goo Dolls making the list.
Oh no,
Man.
that's older Goo Goo Dolls when they were still kind of a punk band.
They were
too.
kind of a punk band.
I'm Awake was straight up Dizzy Up the Girl era, wasn't it?
No.
Was that still-
That was way before.
This
Was
was
it
before.
after
This was
Boy-
before Name. This
This was wow! Right after they stopped
this
doing
is
that.
Superstar Car Wash era Goo Goo
Okay.
Dolls.
Yeah, they fancied themselves a punk band back then.
Back when
Yeah.
they used to let the bass player actually sing too,
Yes.
dude.
And back when the bass player looked like less of a caveman. Is how I like the bass player from the Goo Goo Dolls. Like, I don't know if you know this, he's always barefoot. And go watch any Goo Goo Dolls video, any performance. He does not wear shoes, and he's got that weird like metal bangs haircut. So
Yeah.
he legit looks like a Hanna-Barbera caveman.
Yeah, he is Captain Caveman. He runs around with a bat.
Caveman.
He looks like he should be chasing the gang through like an episode of Scooby-Doo.
Like in and out of different doors. Yeah.
Like Zoinks, man. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that song. I think it shows up twice in the movie. Actually, I think it shows up. I know it shows up when they're driving in the van and
Yeah.
the map says we're fucked scene.
Yeah.
But I'm also pretty sure it's the soundtrack to the closing credits, where it's just a montage of every Freddy kill in the entire franchise history. Side note: I've said this on the show before, but just in case my two friends over here from Camp Nightmare don't know this. I am a staunch defender of Freddy's Dead. I think that it is a criminally underrated sequel in the Nightmare franchise.
All right.
Yeah.
I respectfully disagree.
I don't know, man. I was that way.
This is not my show. I'm not going to roast you. I respect
It's our show, and I want you to roast Matt. That's what we invite people on to do. But I will say that I'm on Team Matt. It took me a decade of podcasting with him, but I am on Team Matt. That Freddy's Dead is not as bad as I
It
remember.
is. You have to think of it through this lens. It is a horror
everything.
film being directed by John Waters' personal assistant, and it is very John Waters-y throughout the entire movie.
It also has
The
Alice
fact-
Cooper.
The
as
fact that
Freddy's
you have
dad.
to what's that?
Yeah,
Alice
the cast
Cooper
that
is
Alice
Freddy's
Cooper
dad.
as Freddy's Dead is like a brilliant stunt casting, actually.
The fact that you have to qualify it with like 4 or 5 different things, like immediately after being like, it's awesome,
Yeah.
speaks to the opposite of it being.
You just have to look. You just have to look past the
You know what
story.
movie
and
I
the
don't
movie
have?
and
You know
the-
what movie
the
I
things
don't
that
have to
happen.
qualify at all because we all know it's great. Dream Warriors. Just say it. Just say it.
Touche,
I don't have to be like
touche.
Dream
I'm
Warriors
not-
is great because.
And I'm not going to say that I think it's better than Dream Warriors, but I do think that it is. I think it's underrated. I think that the
How do you
Carlos
feel
ear
about-
death is like really fucking unsettling. That's like one of the most fucked up Freddy kills ever.
How do you feel about the final Friday? Jason Goes to Hell.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it too. It's
Okay,
also super
okay.
misogynistic.
Yeah, not a fan. But I am a huge
As
defender.
opposed to the rest of Friday the 13th, which is super
It's way-
pro women.
it is significantly worse,
it's
dude.
way worse. We
Freddy's
we had to
little worm
rewatch
goes inside a woman and then bursts out of her
Jason's
stomach.
little,
yeah.
little worm impregnates
That is
a
not
woman.
the first, and it will not be the last time that
Yeah.
we have said the wrong name out of those two
But
franchises.
I am a strong defender of Friday the 13th Part 5, The New Beginning, which I think is also criminally underrated. But we'll get it.
That ambulance driver does a good job for himself
Dude,
as far as like
Roy
just.
is more vicious than
deciding to-
Jason has ever been. Like,
I mean, for just a first go out, the guy like has an astounding body count.
He
Good
throws
for
a
him.
gotta figure
flare
that's a
into
dude-
a man's mouth. Like,
Uh-oh.
it is chaos.
Oh yeah.
Well, you
I love
got to
that
figure
scene.
that's a dude who's been thinking on how he's going to kill people for a while.
I guess he's reversing.
That's
He's,
the guy who's
he's an
been
ambulance
watching
driver,
Jason and
right?
being like, machete.
But since he's an ambulance driver, he's like reverse engineering all these deaths. And he's like, okay, so
Yeah.
when I become a killer, I'm like already like an expert.
I'm going to use a
Because I'm
bat.
an ambulance driver. I don't know. That's enough logic for me.
I mean, don't act like you've never watched a horror movie and been like, I'd have done that different, and like started planning a little bit in your head before you stopped yourself because you're like, wait, no, I'm actively plotting murders in my head now.
That's bad. That's
In
bad.
all
to
the
do.
documentaries that I watch, this is how it starts.
I thought all the documentaries that starts with a guy being rejected by a girl, but hey.
Well, that's how the incels start usually. But
Yeah, it's different
Which-
sometimes.
Make no mistake, incels are the scariest thing in the world right now. Like, no matter what anytime anyone asks me my biggest fear in life, like it's incels.
It's
Like
incels.
it truly
And you're not
is.
even
Like,
a woman.
I don't think you need to be a woman to be afraid of them.
not
I think
anymore.
I think that once they're incel enough, they're willing to rape anything.
Yeah.
They're gonna be
Yeah,
like,
it's
I'm
true.
gonna rape this carpet. Like,
I hope they do. I
that
hope that
is
they
scary.
rub their small penises to death.
Until it starts a little fire and burns them to death.
I hope we get
so-
some
Sorry,
solid
that's-
So on
sexy
that,
hate mail for
I
this.
don't have a transitional segue from here, so just JB, what's your fourth pick?
There it is.
speaking of incels, this is round 5, right?
4.
Four.
You got
This is
two
round
more.
4. Okay, all right. I have one that I'm saving for round 5.
All right.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's a bomb. It's gonna drop on me.
All
For
right.
round 4, I will pick "Hip to Be Square" from American Psycho
Nice
by Huey
choice.
Lewis in the News.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, Paul.
Great
It
use
just
of a
doesn't
so-
get better than that.
Just use of a song in a scene. This song is just fantastic.
Well, and just I miss old school baddie Christian Bale as an actor. Like where he chose roles specifically to be crazy for a while, and like Gary Oldman did the same thing for a good portion of his career. Where like I'm thinking of like the era that started with like him playing Drexel
Sure.
in True Romance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman had that period, but so did Christian Bale. Christian Bale did like American Psycho, and then even his Batman, Bruce Wayne was basically Patrick Bateman.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
what always
Yeah.
kind of freaked me out about. I mean, I
Like,
love him as Bruce
there-
Wayne, but I'm just like, I've seen what you did.
The
dude.
one scene in particular when they're at dinner and Batman begins and they're talking about Batman.
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
like, guy dresses a bat, and it's just absolutely Patrick Bateman.
The next line should have been, "I got to go return some tapes."
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
that scene, like it is insane. I mean, Scott, we were talking about this earlier this week, and I feel like there's no better time to also just mention Ice Nine Kills' new song called "Hip to Be
Yes,
Square"
Hip to
is
Be-
like
Hip to Be
unreasonably
Scared.
good.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'll
so
have to check
Ice
this
Nine
out.
Kills
Wait,
started
oh,
out as
dude.
a scene band, like a screamo
Yeah.
scene band, and then they were like, "This ain't working out," and so then they just decided they're only going to write songs about their favorite horror movies. And I didn't really like the Silver Scream that much. That was their second to last. I don't know if it was their first full length, but it was a full length that they did a couple years back. Didn't love it. Didn't really listen to it. But then the Silver Scream 2 came out like last week, and I have been jamming it way too much for an almost 40-year-old man.
Dude,
It is unnecessarily good.
The-
There's one that beyond it's Hip to Be Scared. The best song is Assault and Batteries, which is about Chucky, and it
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
all the videos. I don't know where they're getting their money, but their videos must cost like $30,000 to make,
Yeah.
and they're just music videos.
Dude,
And maybe
him
I'm
doing
grossly under.
you sent me "Hip to Be Scared," and there's literally a point where they recreate the "Hip to Be Squared" scene from American Psycho, but
Yeah.
he's talking about the band Ice Nine Kills. And
He's like,
I didn't
"You
like
ever
their
listen to Ice
earlier.
Nine Kills? It was a little too steam for me, but when they got into their own, and then he's like, "Hey, Paul," and then he kills the guy. It's you
That's
guys.
amazing.
If nothing else, the entertainment value of Ice Nine Kills on YouTube is unmistakable.
They are to
Agreed.
YouTube what Eve 6 has been to Twitter over the last year. So, but
Probably
yeah,
a little bit more work went into what Ice Nine Kills does. Just
probably. But no, great pick. And that is like, that scene specifically is so
Mhm.
great because it is like verbatim a chapter from the book that they
Yeah.
just like found a way to work into the movie, which is very dope to me.
and
yeah.
working the song like into the plot, you
Yeah.
know, not even just using it as like a cool needle drop moment.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a really, that movie is really, My only beef with that movie is that the director thinks that it's obvious that Patrick Bateman's killing people and getting away with it, and I'm like, I don't think that that's obvious at all when I watch that movie.
And that's also the opposite
It's
of the
definitely not an
book.
obvious ending.
And that's also the opposite ending of the book. In the book, it's definitely all in his head.
Yeah.
But also, you got to keep in mind, though, like that's jokes aside, the book coming out in the 80s, it makes total sense that it would be just his cocaine psychosis that he is thinking he's killing people. And then in the 90s, when they did American Psycho as a movie, it was like, oh, it has to be happening for real or else people aren't going to accept the film. You know, it's just like a really funny way that the decades changed the ideals of the movie.
And one of these days, Scott, I'm going to make us watch American Psycho 2 starring Mila Kunis for the podcast.
Oh, man.
It's so bad. And she kills William Shatner in that movie.
Yeah,
only redeemable part of that movie is her killing William Shatner.
And Mila Kunis.
Well, and it's interesting. I love the take you have on the 80s part of it, because that's kind of Bret Easton Ellis's thing as a writer was that he was really trying to expose the really dark underbelly of like high society in the 80s. And that's really all American Psycho is, right?
Yeah.
Just it's a metaphor for how sociopathic that generation was.
I mean, I don't know. You guys can tell me if I'm off base here, but I know that Christian Bale emulated Patrick Bateman off of Donald Trump.
No, and Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Oh, the smile he has. He literally had a picture. He literally had a picture of Tom Cruise smiling in his on his trailer. That he would stare at for like 20 minutes a day at the beginning of every day to like get that sort of plastic emotionless smile.
But he said it was specifically how Tom Cruise behaved on like late night television, or when he did like guest spots on things. He said he was always so like weirdly plastic and just obviously fake, and so that's a big part of how Patrick Bateman like behaves.
Makes sense. All right, Jordan, what is your fourth pick?
All right, I'm going with Down with the Sickness, but the lounge cover
by Richard Cheese.
From Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, from Dawn of the Dead.
Well done, sir.
Yeah, the lounge Disturbed cover.
That's my man's.
Down with the sickness, gotta get it up.
It's such a great montage too.
Yeah, it is. It's an awesome part of the movie.
Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah, I love that movie.
That's not saying
I
much,
love that.
But
I vehemently disagree with that.
Well, I mean,
I'm curious because I don't hate Zack Snyder that much. I think he is. Well, I gets shit on too hard. I want to know what JB.
Yeah, JB, you say your piece, and then I'll give you the 2-sentence reason why I disagree.
I think Zack Snyder is. I think he's an intellectual or a more intellectual version of Michael Bay for sure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I will go start by saying that he's a thinking man's Michael Bay. Essentially, he loves his explosions. He loves his lens flares. He loves his huge, broad cinematographic violence, but he also loves to put meat behind that. And I think he's not afraid to build some structure behind those big action scenes and give characters layers and depth. And when he has the budget to do so, explore those layers. And he sort of does it backwards from how he should, right? He should be using his budget to kind of unpack the characters and then worry about the action sequences, but he does it backwards. Like he makes the action sequences first and then uses whatever budget he has left to elicit great performances out of his actors.
Tell
and not
me
everything
you
he's
didn't
done
watch
is great.
Army of the Dead without telling me you didn't watch Army of the Dead.
I did watch Army of the Dead and I loved it.
Yeah.
There's no character development in that film.
But there doesn't need to be though. That script is written in such a way that you don't really need the character development. Like I think that script was exactly what he said it was going to be. There's an interview where he talks about like coming off of his daughter's suicide and the whole debacle with the Justice League cut and finally getting it out. He was like, the next thing I do is going to be something that's purely for fun, purely to play around with effects and like blow some shit up and have a pretty compelling plot as far as action movies are concerned. And there's going to be no seriousness about it.
Like Zack Snyder literally shot that movie himself with lenses he bought off eBay.
Yeah.
That he would. Yeah. He said because he directed and shot the whole thing like mostly handheld on the shoulder rig. And he talks a lot in the behind the scenes. Yeah, I bought this weird lens on eBay and it's a crazy shallow focus. And it's all those shots where things are like kind of going in and out of focus. And it seems like it's really shallow is all of that lens. So it's literally him like, I'm trying like stuff I think is fun. Like literally no one can tell me no. So I think it's just like, that's just like a fun ride for me just to see him have some creative freedom.
I remember we had over on the Geekscape proper website, we had an article probably a decade ago now, whenever Sucker Punch came out, that was like it was like essentially like in defense of Sucker Punch, but the argument wasn't like Sucker Punch is a good movie, but the argument was like this movie is exactly what it advertised itself to be.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
like
I feel like that's how I
wanted
feel
more
about
from
Army
it,
of the
though.
Dead. Yeah.
yeah, like and
but
like
it's worth the watch. It's not like boring.
yeah,
No,
no,
nothing Zack Snyder does is boring.
But
Yeah.
for me, even beyond that, I think that I just think Zack Snyder is somebody who really loves film, really enjoys making movies, really enjoys making the movies that he sees in his head, and I don't have to like all of them to like him.
I have a really this is going to sound like a really weird hot take, but I think that if Zack Snyder didn't look like a really attractive jockey sports guy, geek culture would absolutely love him. But like he looks like the dude that used to pick
that's
on
funny.
us. Like
Yeah.
but
Well, that's why a lot of fanboys hate him, right? Because he looks kind of like Michael
he's
Bay.
clearly a fanboy. Like he's
And
clearly a geek.
He's a fanboy that also hangs out with cool kids, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like he's a fanboy that also is like, hey, like he's like if the Fonz was into fucking comic books, which
Yeah,
I believe the
because-
Fonz was into comic books.
Probably.
But,
Yeah, he was.
He
but-
was in a comic book, I'm sure. But like, yeah, like I think that he did the best that you could ever do with a film version of Watchmen. I think that he did the best you could do with a film version of 300.
Die on that hill. Watchmen's amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
Watchmen's very pretty, but it
Yeah.
is an abortion of the original story.
But
It loses
but
the
I mean,
entire
there's only
impact
one-
of
There was
it.
no way. There was no way to do it. Like when you do it as a TV show, it's fine. There's no way to tell that comic book in 2 hours. I think he did the best job you could ever ask for.
But then you also need to edit yourself down and say, you know what, this is unfilmable at this time. That's why Dune failed in the 80s.
That's
I haven't seen the new Dune
there
yet.
was a
Are
lot
we
of
jumping on a Dune now? Okay.
Well, no, we're not talking about it. We're just, I'm just saying.
No,
that,
no,
I
like,
was literally watching. This is not even a joke. I was absolutely watching Lynch's Dune before I came to Jordan's studio today. Like when you came,
well, I'm not
when
saying
we
that I
left to come here,
dislike
I
it.
turned off Dune to leave my house. And
I'm not
that's
saying
after
I
watching
dislike it. I'm
Villeneuve's
just saying that
Dune.
it's not. That was an unfilmable movie when it was filmed for the first time.
Yeah,
I think that David Lynch did a great job. I think it was totally filmable.
I mean, the Sandworms
studio.
look like garbage.
I think if the studio had gotten off Lynch's nutsack and let him
How to finish
make
the
the
movie
movie
if
he
it ain't
actually-
filmable?
I think they would have let. I think if they'd have let him make the movie he wanted to make, I think there wouldn't have been a need for a remake.
Did you know
Like,
there
I
was
think
Dune
we-
action figures when that movie
Oh,
came
yeah.
out?
Yeah.
Because my
Oh,
uncle
yeah.
used to
Sandworm
have
toys?
I
those.
have a,
Yeah.
I have
that's
a
cool.
few of them.
Dude, they're
I have
awesome
a, I have
looking.
a, I have a Paul Atreides figure and a Duncan Idaho figure from that.
My
Yeah.
so Scott knows this because I've talked about him a bunch. But I had an Uncle Craig who just collected toys for years and years and years, and he would have like you would go into his basement. It would almost be like a museum with these display cases of the complete sets. And he had the complete Dune set in one of his display cases with like the
Amazing.
giant sandworm toy and everything. It was
Oh,
fucking gnarly.
that's so cool.
Yeah. All right, Scott, your fourth pick.
Oh god. So I realized that my number one pick on here has already been kind of tertiarily. No, I mean I could make it work if I wanted to, but I'm just going to mention it later on at the very end. We don't
Right.
have to have a conversation about it. But I'm going to go with Killer Clowns from Outer Space by the Dickies because
Cool.
because that
choice.
is basically
gonna
I'm
be
just
my
going
next
through.
pick.
It's a perfect song, and you guys all know someone who did a perfect metal cover of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
No,
on
I've
the
heard
phone.
that.
Yeah,
I mean,
played that for him.
when you ask for a rock song about killer clowns from outer space, that is the perfect thing you could possibly ask for is that song.
Yeah, it is. It's.
I don't think you
perfect
could
song.
get a better 80s rock song clown themed.
especially from
I
aging
mean,
punk rockers.
Not without Dr. Roxo.
Cocaine.
Yeah, I mean, it captures the tone of that film beautifully.
Yeah,
Just-
absolutely.
I agree with you. It is a perfect needle drop moment in that song, and I feel like that song pops up a couple times in that movie.
I gotta be honest. I never thought I'd live to see the day where someone unpacked the soundtrack from Killer Clowns from Outer Space in such an
Well, now's
in
the
such an
now's the
erudite
time.
and academic way.
Yep.
Like,
No.
this is amazing.
That's what we
It's a
do.
movie where-
Future, buddy.
It's a movie
so-
where a killer clown literally uses another person as a puppet.
Best skill in the movie.
Best kill in
It's
the
like a
movie.
metaphor for politics or something.
So I'm going to bounce off of clowns and go with
Yeah.
something else here. A very deep cut, but it wouldn't be my list if I didn't put
If
it on
wasn't all
here.
Deep cuts. Yeah.
Manic Depresso by Psychotic
Yeah!
Symphony, as appears in the Full Moon film Bad Channels. This is Psychotic Symphony, spelled SYKOTIKSINFONEY. Psychotic Symphony. Which
Matt's
was
pals with the one guitar player, right?
That is the product of a public school education.
Oh yeah.
Whoever came up with- I guarantee you, the band member that came up with that name thinks that's how both of those words are spelled.
No, dude. That's a homeschooled education.
Like some reporter somewhere was like, "Oh, that's so ironic," and he was like, "What's ironic?"
Yeah. So Psychotic
What is
Symphony.
irony?
I used to talk about this band all the time on the show. I finally we had an excuse to watch bad channels on the podcast, and Scott walked away from that episode, and I believe the exact words that you said were, "I'm embarrassed to say this, but I do in fact like the Psychotic Symphony song in this movie."
Nice.
They are, imagine like if Primus was a hair metal band is like the best way I can describe it, but then throw in like Slipknot costumes.
Throw in mushroom head costumes,
Yes,
not
mushroom
Slipknot.
head.
All right, yeah,
Because
very different.
Slipknot
So-
is way more high budget.
Yeah. So these are like their guitar players dressed like a nun. Their drummer's like a dude that's vomiting. Their like bass players just like a paper mache head, and then their lead singer is dressed like a skeleton cow with a clown face. Very weird. Song bounces all over the place between like this weird circus music into like 80s hair metal guitar soloing. And the band actually ended up breaking up when their guitarist became David Lee Roth's touring guitar player. And that's been like what he's been up to for the last like 30 some years.
I mean, do you ever think he has any days when he's like, "Oh, why did I leave?"
No, Matt interviewed the singer.
Yeah.
The guitar player knows exactly what he left.
Yeah, he left for good reason. But no, this song, I have their whole album. I was able to track it down eventually, and it's weird. If you're into some really weird, like the most comparable band would be like Ugly Kid Joe. So like if you're a big Ugly Kid Joe fan, then check out Psychotic Symphony, I guess.
You know,
but
oddly, like I think you have to be a very specific age to be an Ugly Kid Joe fan. But like
Yes.
oddly, I am that age.
Yeah.
And, like
I've never heard of this.
America's
Yes, you
Least
have.
Wanted
Yes, you
is
have.
a fantastic album.
Do you not remember the I hate everything about you? You don't remember that song?
Nope.
Man.
They also did the cover of Cats in the Cradle. Those were their two big claims to fame in the 90s.
And there was a single.
yeah.
I had it on cassette. I had a cassette single that one side of it was everything. It was I hate everything about you, and the other side was Cats in the Cradle.
Oh, so they just gave away the best tracks on the album in a single single. That's always a
They
smart
fucking
move.
knew. That's why they're one of those bands where like, listen, we have peaked with this single. This is as good as it's getting.
Let's just ride this out. No one needs to hear Mr. Record Man. So, all right, JB, your final pick for
Ooh,
the
final
needle
round.
draft.
I thought about this long and hard.
Yeah.
I'm going with Love is a Lie by Lion from Friday the 13th, part 4,
Nice.
the final chapter. It is the song playing when Crispin Glover does his ridiculous dance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I think when they filmed, he had like an
It was Back in Black
AC/DC
by
song.
AC/DC.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, that
Which is why he's
dancing.
like, "Back in Black."
So I a couple months ago I did a 15-hour live stream where I watched all of the Friday the 13th
What?
movies on Twitch, and
No one
for
asked
you.
for this.
no one
Good
asked
for
for
you.
it, but I did it.
When you wake up and you're like, you know what? I hate my body.
But yeah,
Fuck
you
you,
go from that lion dance scene, and then it's literally the very next movie is Friday the 13th Part 5, which has an even more confusing dance scene, I feel, because you have the gothy punk girl that's popping locking to
Oh, yeah.
some hip hop in the bedroom, and you're just like, why is this the goth girl that's doing this? Like,
Because that was
Yeah.
back in the 80s when they equated anything outside the norm with everything outside the norm. That's why in the 80s, like I was a child in the 80s. I remember this distinctly, that I had no idea what the differentiation between a person with a mohawk and a person with a heroin habit was. because
You know, I
that's
don't
how
think
my mom raised me.
I think that's actually quite a very astute assertion, because show me put two people in a room that have mohawks, and I'll show you two people that have heroin.
all right, Jordan. As we'll kind of do round 5 as a bit of a speed round. Jordan,
All right,
what is your final pick?
All right, my final pick is Sprout and the Bean by Joanna Newsom.
Wow.
From The Strangers and
Yeah.
It's a double needle drop because in the movie it's an actual needle drop where when they come into the house, the baghead stranger drops the needle on the record. Even though that's not what she was listening to earlier in the movie, and they at no point switched the record. But now, for some reason, when they play it, it's Joanna Newsom sprouting the bean, and it's a really creepy song to be stalked to in a house.
Yeah.
So
It's
does
the only
that
one I
also
can think
happen? Go ahead.
The only song I think creepier than that is anything that Tiny Tim did.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like, just
it kind of does the
idea
same
of
thing.
being
It's a,
what's the movie where he plays a killer
Blood
clown?
Lake.
Blood Lake, yeah,
Right?
like
Blood Harvest.
Blood
Blood
Harvest.
Harvest.
There is a Blood Lake,
Does it
but
feel like he's not really acting in Blood Harvest?
no, he was already in the
Like-
clown makeup.
Yeah,
On a
and
bad
he's just
day.
Like, this
Do you-
feels right.
This is such a weird Tiny Tim fact, but you know the like super sad way that he died, right?
Tell us,
no.
man.
He had a
Was
heart
it-
attack
Bring
on
us down.
stage, but everyone thought it was part of the show, so no one did anything.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
no.
Like,
I understand why, though, because of how like erratic he was
yeah,
already.
that's what I mean.
you know?
So everyone's just like, "Oh, Tiny Tim's doing his
He's
bit."
doing weird stuff
Like,
again.
You're just
Look
like,
at
"Oh
that.
no!"
Classic Tim.
Well, and it's you know, it's like the Andy Kaufman,
Yeah,
right? Like it's the same
Sure.
deal where people were like, he's not really in pain.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So
Those-
did
those
that also
ambulance
happen?
drivers are actors.
yeah, exactly.
Did the double needle drop also happen in the beginning of Your Next? I can't remember if that was a song or if it was like just
No, he just had the CD still playing when they killed him, so it was like the
Okay.
CD kept playing on a loop
Playing
when they
over and
show
over
up at the
again.
house
Okay.
later.
There was a good needle drop in. Well, maybe I should let you guys.
Yeah,
finish
let's get
before.
our last
Yeah.
two in there. You're definitely
Yeah,
not going to
yeah,
steal
yeah.
my pick, but maybe Scott's.
This was really, really hard to pick between these last two. But I'm gonna go with Flagpole Sitta because
From disturbing behavior.
yeah.
Fuck yes.
I mean, it's,
Yeah,
I had to
Harvey
go
Danger.
something-
Again, that's a really specific generational thing.
Exactly. That's exactly
That was
why
my,
I
like,
picked
first-
this.
That was a
CD.
lot of our first R-rated movie, like legally allowed to go to. Like for me, that was the first R-rated movie that I legally saw.
I mean, in theaters, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd seen a lot of R-rated movies in theaters, like illegally.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah,
I
they
watched a
were-
lot of R-rated movies at home, but I think that my first R-rated movie in theaters was like American Pie or
Yeah.
some shit. You
Uh,
know, like
It was always the, you buy the ticket for the PG-13 movie that's playing
Oh, yeah.
approximately around the same time and just hope that the
Yeah.
R-rated film's not sold out when you slip into that one.
Yeah,
You're like, I'm
I'm
still
totally
giving
going-
money to the studio. It's fine. It's not stealing.
Exactly.
I did that with Jumanji and Lord of Illusions. Like I vividly remember buying a
Poor
ticket for
choice.
Jumanji.
Yeah, I think you
And-
probably would have been
and
better just
sneaking into
checking
Lord
out
of
Jumanji at the
Yeah,
Dude, in retrospect, yeah, Jumanji's a way better movie. Like,
and
absolutely.
for my final pick, never for a second worried that this was in danger at all. From Rock and Roll Nightmare,
Yes!
sung by Thor, We Accept the Challenge, the song that plays as he's fighting the worst looking Satan puppet I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right,
So
so
much.
real quick,
I'm really shocked that no one mentioned anything from Return of the Living Dead because I was going to pick
Yeah,
Party
there's a
Time.
lot of good songs
Surfing
there.
Dead was on my long list.
I had, yeah.
I mean, that's
I
like
had,
that is arguably the best needle drop horror.
I mean,
movie
listen,
soundtrack.
I was again trying to make the best song team for this imaginary song sport.
Goodbye Horses you brought up
Oh, yeah.
earlier.
Goodbye
Oh,
Horses.
From
yeah.
That was on
Silence
my
of the
list.
Lambs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The whatever I don't know what song it is, but in 30 Days of Night, there's something playing on the record player, and then he puts his big vampire claw on the record, and it
Oh,
continues
yeah.
to play.
It's something super gothy. I
Yeah.
remember.
I don't remember what
It's
it is.
Bela
but-
Lugosi's dead, dude.
Yeah.
Probably.
Bela Lugosi's-
The other Nightmare on Elm Street song I had written down was Anything Anything by
Of course it
Dramarama
was.
from
Oh, yeah.
Dream Master.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, I had a. There's like Lissy's does a cover of Dragula at the end of Haunt for the final
This
credits.
literally
We were
just came
just
up on a
talking about
recording
that.
2 days ago that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had Dead Souls by Nine Inch Nails from The Crow.
That song's come up a lot this
Remember
month
that?
for me for some reason. That's a good ass
Yeah.
cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had Midnight Special by Creedence Clearwater Revival at the beginning of the Twilight Zone movie when
Oh,
Ben
yeah.
Aykroyd
yeah.
attacks Albert Brooks.
You want to see something scary?
Yeah.
I had American Girl from Silence of the Lambs because the song the girl's listening to in the van.
Oh,
when
yeah.
she gets, when she gets
Mhm.
kidnapped.
Nice.
And what about like
Great big fat
turn around, bright eyes? I fucking need you more than. But that's from Urban Legend, and if we were going to go with the '90s,
No
So
one said like
same-
Mr. Sandman from
Yeah.
Halloween 2.
I was going to, but then I was like, we've already done enough Halloween. That is, I mean, and that
Yeah,
also
yeah.
shows up in more than just the Halloween franchise. But
True.
Well,
I mean, like, such a great song.
Scott, I thought for a split second when you were saying "Turn Around, Bright Eyes," I was going to say Betty Davis eyes in Final
from
Girls.
Final Girls. Yeah.
That's
and-
also in that's in something in the '90s too.
It's good.
I'll
it's
think-
Oh, I'm
good
sure it
as
is
jam.
because it had to be a reference because that whole movie's a reference.
The last one I had written down was "Blood Clot" by Rancid at the beginning of
From Idle Hands.
when he's
But
waking
Idle
up.
Hands has so much good stuff in it. It's got.
Dude, I haven't watched Idle Hands in
Love
probably
Idle
15
Hands.
years.
Dude,
I need to watch that
you're
movie.
Pop
missing
it
out.
on. It's a Halloween movie
It's-
too. Whole
it
movie
is-
takes
yeah.
place in October.
And it's Jessica Alba at her absolute pinnacle. It's Devin Sawa at his pinnacle. It's got The Offspring in it, playing
Seth
at
Green.
the
Oh,
Halloween
doesn't he
dance.
cut? It doesn't
He
cut
pulls his head
Dexter
off, yeah.
from the Offspring's head off.
Yep,
Yeah.
rips
Or
the top of his head
rips
up.
the top of his head
It's
And-
off.
got Motley
and,
Crue, Shout at the Devil. That is like, it's got Rob Zombie in it. It's got so
Got
much
Tom
good
DeLonge.
stuff. It's got Tom
I'm gonna-
DeLonge for a split second in it.
Yeah.
What?
Tom DeLonge is the guy working at the fast food restaurant that Devin Sawa
Oh, wow.
It's,
takes his
you know
place.
what? You just hit the nail. It's got Devin Sawa.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
exactly.
it is.
Pinnacle.
What the fuck more do you need than some old school Devin Sawa?
So here's what the final picks were. JB, you walked off with Cry Little Sister, Eve of Destruction, Free Bird, Hip to Be a Square, and Love is a Lie. That's a pretty solid lineup.
Yeah.
Jordan, you got Pet Cemetery, Starless, Call Me, Down with the Sickness, the Richard Cheese version, and Sprout and the Bean. Scott, you had Rock Until You Drop, Dream Warriors, Trick or Treat, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and Flagpole Sitta. And then I had Youth of America, Don't Fear the Reaper, I'm Awake Now, Manic Depresso, and We Accept the Challenge. So on brand for me, songs no one's ever heard of. So
Yeah, Matt picks stuff. Everything that Matt picks, pop culture wise, he picks in such a way that people will remember him if it ever comes up again. He's like, I want to be the first thing I want to be the one that shows this to you, because then there is the microcosmic possibility that you will think of me in polite society
but
after
it's
we
worked, Scott. That's the thing. The
I
fact
know,
that I
it's-
got
it's-
asked to be on a podcast to talk about Phantom of the Paradise because they were like, we're going to talk about Phantom of the Paradise. Who should do it? And like 10 different people came out of the woodworks. Be like, Matt Kelly loves that movie. Have him be on the show.
This man on this show, he's an expert.
So,
We need
quick,
Kelly.
before we sign off, one last time, it's guys, if you're listening to Horror Movie Night, you're making a mistake. You should be listening to Camp Nightmare.
No, you
Guys,
close the boat. You close the boat.
Guys,
Yeah, you guys
tell
are-
them a
you
little
guys
bit
are
about
way-
Camp Nightmare.
You guys stay on task way better than we do.
Well, it's because we're not
Yeah,
smoking weed.
we're a very, very,
fair.
very sober podcast.
That's fair. I feel
We play a little bit of jazz on our show. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. It's
Hey,
important.
Aqualung.
Yeah,
just pull a jazz flute out of my sleeve.
it's a little bit of both.
I'm not prepared. Thank you so much for having us, man.
Yeah,
is
man,
so
this
much
is a ton of fun.
Yeah, you guys need to come on our show and play a game we invented called Slasher Showdown, which
Okay.
is a whole. It's basically top this, but you get to pick. Or you randomly get assigned a character from a horror movie and then randomly assigned a scenario from a horror movie in which they fight, and then you have to defend your character.
It's like Mortal Kombat, but if it's like you could do it.
But
like
if it was
game.
it's like
D&D
Mortal
Mortal
Kombat. If
who
it
would win?
was a tabletop RPG game.
Yeah.
Either way, we're gonna throw some more crazy rules in, add some more characters, and you guys should come on
There's
and
gonna
play.
be dice
Nice.
involved.
Can you just
down.
make
Yeah.
up rules on the spot while you're with us to make it more? While we're with you to make it more difficult, because that would be
Like I
we
said,
should.
we might
We
play
might.
a little jazz.
We
We
might.
don't know yet. We're not fortune tellers.
It's
Yeah,
because
true.
they play a little bit of jazz because they got that jazz lettuce going on. While they're recording. So I just want to real quickly also say to the listeners who are checking out this show, Camp Nightmare, as soon as I listened to them, I wanted them to be a part of something related to Horror Movie Night because, as you know, when you listen to the show, we are very big into talking about shit like mental health and like equal rights while being funny about horror. And if that's something that you've really loved about this show, please come our way. If you're the people who've left us reviews that were too woke, you're probably already gone anyway. but don't listen to Camp Nightmare, or you're just going to give them some 1-star reviews
no,
as
you're
well.
gonna-
And
Well, and we're a lot different than these guys. We will roast the bejesus out of you live on the show.
Oh, yeah, we
remember
don't
the
give a
guy?
shit.
Remember the guy that tried to come at us with the Rawhead Rex and like
Oh, yeah, I forget that guy's
early
name.
on in our career, not even that early on, maybe like a season in. So like season 2-ish. This dude like wanted to fanboy out with us via instant message and like, but mock other people and like be exclusive. Like, how dumb is this jackwad for not knowing this movie? But we were like, nah, man, you kind of missed the point of what we're doing. Like, we're not here to just judge people for not having seen a movie. We're trying to educate them on it.
I've definitely had people like message me being like, hey man, stick to talking about movies and stop talking about like what you think about shit.
I
And
came
I'm
here to hear about bitches.
why are you listening to this show if you don't care about what we say about shit?
I want to hear about dumb bitches dying, not democracy dying. All right. So,
spoiler, everything
Just
we
went
say
to
on the
next
show
t-shirt
is what we think.
yeah, we really. But I mean, again, thank you for that plug, because that's really what we're about, is creating an ever more inclusive corner for all us weirdos to hang out in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right? That's what we're doing. Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
All right. Well, go check out their show, and we'll be back with our regular episodes on Thursday nights. Thanks again for joining us, guys, and sign in.
Thanks.
Off.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.